This summer, discover American Giant's timeless, high-quality clothing made right here in the USA. Every piece is designed for quality and style that's built to last. From vintage-style tees to tough tank tops, breathable polos to lightweight sweatshirts, you can find your perfect fit. Celebrate American craftsmanship and support local communities with every stitch. Go to american-giant.com and use promo code STAPLE20 for 20% off your first order.
Decorating Pages is a podcast dedicated to taking you behind the scenes of the designs of your favorite TV shows and films. Each episode, I'll be sharing design stories from some of Hollywood's most famous sets. Interviews from set decorators, production designers, directors, and actors about creating the look of TV and film, about their design inspirations, and stories that take sets from page to screen. Hello there, and welcome to Decorating Pages. I'm your host, Kim Wanna. How are ya? Hope you had a good holiday, if Easter, Passover, spring break with the kids. Hope you survived. I get it. I went away. I went back east, Philly, South Jersey, and met new cousins, new babies. Had a wonderful holiday. Threw my mom a surprise party. It was great. Had a really great time, and I'm back. And double prizes, both of my American Airlines flights had Wi-Fi working, which hasn't happened in a long time, I would say. So I actually got to watch something while my kids watched all their stuff. But I hit The Fabelmans finally, which I know I've seen really bits and pieces, and I've seen Rick Carter's work and Karen O'Hara's work, and I think it's phenomenally done. Just the style of it and every nook and cranny of that is so lived in and so layered and aged, and the palette is great. It's just a beautiful film. I didn't really like it, to be honest. I don't really like Michelle Williams, and I don't really like Paul Dano. I think Paul Dano's best performance was Little Miss Sunshine when he was quiet through most of the movie. I don't know. Well, no, he was actually really good in There Will Be Blood. I gotta give him that. Not a big fan of it. And he's so restrained, and I understand he's playing someone. I think I just wanted more film excitement, Spielberg being a kid in films, and I know how many times can we watch a kid make a film, but I don't know, carry it into college. I don't know. And the whole thing with the mom, I just wasn't into it. So, and I know a couple of my friends really like that movie, and I feel bad, but no. I got to see a little bit of A Man Called Otto, production designed by Barbara Ling, and 3 decorators, Jessica Anderson, Frank Galen, and Michael Amato. I only got to see about a half hour, 45 minutes of it, and I think I'd continue on. I don't know. Did anybody see that? Is it worth it? I don't know. I haven't heard a peep about that movie, but it kind of interests me, and Tom Hanks being a cranky old man is kind of fun. It's it's not too heavy, although a little bit of the subject was heavy, but yeah, I don't know. I'm sure all anyone can talk about right now is secession, and that 3rd episode was extraordinary. I just think extraordinary writing and directing, and the camera work of how you follow these people and these actors really portraying finding out that your father has died. It's just fantastic. It was fantastic. I'm recording this before Sunday, so I guess I should wait to talk about episode 4, but I'm sure it's going to be great anyway. But I don't feel like anyone was super surprised that he died. I mean, the show was called Secession. We all knew it was going to happen, right? I think we all thought maybe first season, and that awful episode when he was in the hospital, the most boring hour ever. But no, it's so good. Succession is so good, and the helicopters and the yacht, and like, it's so good. We actually talk a little bit about it in this interview, but just loved it. I love Succession. I'm watching Perry Mason. I think it's better than the first season. Production designer Keith Cunningham and set decorator Helena Swalp. I just think I think the story's better. I think Matthew Rhys has lightened up a little, and that's his name, right? Matthew Rhys. Shit. Yeah, I do. I like Perry Mason. And this past week or so, The Marvelous Miss Maisel is on Amazon in its final 5th season with production designer Bill Groom and set decorator Ellen Christensen. Oof, it's just perfect. Everything about that design of that show is just perfect. I love it. I just want to eat it up, and just I'm dazzled by it every time, and the costumes and the hair and the makeup, like those are all my favorites. And I'll tell you, and I've said this before, I'm not a big fan of Miss Maisel, because I feel like her dialogue is like like that whole singy-songy way. I just can't stand it. But I was never a fan of Monk, and Tony Shalhoub is so funny to me in this show that I laugh out loud at least once every episode because of one of his lines. I just think his delivery and everything is so good. Their first episode, they're in the TWA terminal in New York, and they make that look amazing, even though it is already. In the second episode, they unveil these like a late night show comedy offices, and like almost like a production office, really. And I thought those were done fantastic. It's kind of like a more lighter, brighter Mad Men type of office, which is nice. I don't understand. They do this flash forwards now. They're trying to tell you the end of the story, where she ends up and everything during the episodes. So they had her on the 60-minute interview, and I cannot for the life of me understand why it's in like some shipping yard. I don't know. Maybe they'll reveal that later, but it's completely odd to me. So, and then as they go on, they do Israel, and so there's a whole storyline how, like, she's kind of a bad mother, which I have been saying since, like, the very beginning, what a horrible mother she is. So I'm glad that they're acknowledging that in the storyline and making light of it, at least a little, because she's a horrible mother. Anyway, I think it's going to be a good farewell season, so I'm excited. I'm 3 episodes in. I think they released the first 3 all at once, so dive into that if you can. I'm really enjoying that one. On this episode, I'm talking to Dean Devlin and Jonathan Glassner, who are the creators of the sci-fi network show The Ark. It's a drama that explores a post-apocalyptic world in space. Devlin is an accomplished filmmaker with experience producing movies like Independence Day, Godzilla, and while Glassner has produced and written for popular sci-fi shows like Stargate SG-1 and The Outer Limits, together they bring a wealth of knowledge and expertise into the Ark, creating an immersive space-traveling world with compelling characters and intricate plotlines. This show has garnered a dedicated following for its imaginative storytelling and stunning visuals, making it a must-watch for all sci-fi fans. It was an absolute pleasure to speak with them, and I am glad I got to tell them that their influence on me and other people in sci-fi, I'm just kind of in awe of that. And well done job to the production designer, Randall Groves, who I have worked with and didn't realize when I got the invitation to talk to these two that Randall had done this series. And having just done sci-fi, or no, I guess it's not sci-fi. For All Mankind isn't sci-fi, but for having done space, I really appreciate his designs, and I think it was just really well done, design-wise, and so the finale is on this week, So check that out. So then you can binge it all on Peacock. It's a sci-fi channel. It's a sci-fi network show, but you can binge it on Peacock if you want. And I find out in this interview that they were just picked up for season 2. So bravo and congratulations. So I hope you enjoy. I see you and I hear you. That's perfect.
That's all that matters.
That's more than that.
No, I can't. Usually I have some sort of audio issue, so aces already. This is fantastic. Thank you so much. I know all of our time gets a little crunched up, so thank you so much for getting this together. I really appreciate it. How are you?
Good. How are you?
We're in a good mood today.
Oh, good. Well, there you go. I just discovered I know Randall Groves. I know
You do?
I do. I did the player with him, like some part of a pilot years ago, and I have kept in touch with him because he is a gem.
He is a very, very special human being.
Yeah.
I try to use him on everything.
Yeah, he's a gem. He's such a kind person, and just I think coming from construction, he has such a knowledge of what's possible and what materials to use and how he can make the best of it. I really appreciate working with him, and I've tried to work with him again, so I was so glad to see his name, and I reached out to him and told him how great I thought the sets were. Just fantastic. So,
Yeah, he had a busy year that year because he was doing that. Because he set this thing up in Serbia, but then he was working with us every day in New Orleans on Leverage Redemption. So he was burning the candle on both ends.
That's what he said. He was like, I had so much jet lag in doing in prepping for those sets, but they turned out fantastic. So I think the look of the show is just fantastic, and the special effects I feel like are really good. I feel like I have a little bit of knowledge just coming off of For All Mankind, what it takes to do all of that sci-fi design and everything. So it's a lot.
It's a lot. It is a lot.
I found that, costumes and production and the design and the decor, there's so many questions that would come up in meetings that might not have been thought of like, well, how is their air system, or how are they really communicating? And so how was that on the show? Just like discovering how this ship really works.
Well, there's the kind of Uber from 35,000 feet idea of it, but
or 35,000 light years.
Exactly. But when you make a sci-fi show like this, it's literally every single thing on front of the camera has to be manufactured. So it's, what does a flashlight look like? Yeah. What do shoes look like? It's like there's so many things that you have to start thinking about and having discussions about that you would never have to on a normal show.
Yeah. No, I know so many things came up, and I feel like our showrunners would be like, that's a good question. Let me get back to you. Let me, let's go back and think about that. And, we'll get back to you on that. But it is, and it's not that you guys can think of everything. And that's why the other departments are there to help and create and all be in on it. So I loved it. I've always wanted to do space, so I loved it. I did want to thank you guys, because of your creativity and history in the business of so many pieces of like Stargate, like so many references that we all have because of you guys. Because of you two, like Independence Day.
Although I think it goes ahead before us, actually.
We were referencing a lot of the ones that we grew up on, so
of course. But I think that's one of the ultimate tributes is someone referencing your work. And I know that Stargate has come up many times in conversations through the sci-fi world and the design of it and everything. So I have to thank you for that. Hold on, I gotta let my dog out. I just got a puppy, and it's the worst idea I ever had.
I have too. I know how it is.
I needed that.
They need your attention all the time.
You don't leave your shoes on the floor anymore when you have puppies.
No. I mean, I've toddlers. I should have known better, but The puppy is a whole different situation. But how did you come about with this storyline? Because it has a lot of twists and turns. I mean, I'm only up to episode 10, which aired last week. So I'm like, what? What is going on? It's a fantastic storyline.
Well, I can take credit for the initializing it, but these great story twists and all these surprises is this man right here. I mean,
and a room full of writers.
Yeah,
I can't take full credit for it.
Yeah, I mean, how many writers do you have in the room?
This year we have 5, including me, 6, including him.
Wow, that's nice. Yeah. So that's like
wait, 4 and 5. I'm sorry, 4 including me and 5 including
5. Well, so then do you have writers? All of those writers write the episodes, or do you have anybody come in? Because some shows you have.
No, it's just us.
Oh, that's nice.
You know, the thing is with a serialized show like this, it's kind of one big episode.
Right.
You know, so
right.
It's really hard to have freelancers write for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're not in the room the whole time and having the endless discussions about a million different aspects, it's hard to kind of bomb in and just do one episode.
Yeah.
Do you find that working and writing for streaming services is different than writing for regular network?
Well, we're writing for a network, though. We're writing for
Peacock.
For Sci-Fi.
Oh, it's Sci-Fi, but it's on Peacock.
Right. It starts on Sci-Fi and then they air it on Peacock the next day.
Oh, I'm dumb.
Yeah.
I thought it was
not at all. Because these days, half the people in the world only watch streaming. They don't even have cable. So.
And the truth is, there was a poll done recently where the majority of people who could name the show that they like to watch couldn't name where they watch it because it's so confusing.
Because they just DVR it, or
Yeah. Right. I actually had to start making a list of what I'm watching, what it's on, because then I would think it was on Hulu and it's not, and I'm wasting 5 minutes trying to find what I wanted to watch. And I feel like I'm pretty smart about these things, and I still couldn't. Or when you're working, like I just did a show, it's Sony for Apple. So, you know, who's my boss here?
But that's why in the beginning we were so hoping that we would set this up at Sci-Fi Channel, because we thought, well, at least that's really, intuitive. It's a sci-fi show. It's on Sci-Fi Channel. It kind of makes sense.
Right. It makes a lot more sense that you say that now, because I was like, this is ballsy of Peacock to put all this money and effort into this sci-fi. But yeah. Are there challenges, like logistically bringing this up, having it being done like halfway across the world? Or like, were you there the whole time? Like, what were you doing?
Well, we were back and forth. I mean, Dean directed the pilot, and so he was there for sort of the setup of the whole show, setting up the sets and designing them and everything. And I directed the finale. And so I was there for, probably 3 episodes of shooting because I was prepping. So we were there a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. But not all of the time. And we have a great team there who we trust, and they nail it 99.9% of the time. So.
We had done another series there with this same group of people, and we had done 3 seasons in Serbia with them. So we had a real good rapport with them, and we trusted them, and they trusted us. So I mean, I think had we not had that experience, this might have been more difficult.
And you're talking about you're talking about some of like the key people, like producers and not locations.
The whole crew, the whole post-production, everything.
Yeah.
The guys who drove the trucks were the same guys. I mean, it was the whole team.
Oh, that's fantastic. I noticed that you had some of the same actors as in The Outpost, and that's always nice. That's always like, you know their limits and you know their abilities and you can write to that. It's fantastic.
Yeah, although what's interesting is that they're all playing completely different characters than they played on The Outpost.
Yeah.
And doing it really well. It's like you never know if an actor, just because they can play X, that they can play Y also.
Right.
These guys have been great.
Yeah. I would think as an actor, having such a vast difference, but being comfortable with the writing and your style and everything would help them so much. I'm sure it's very helpful to them and trusting.
It's kind of like a rep company at some point. You all know each other so well, and it really does become this. It's so overused in television but you become a family.
Oh yeah, you do. There's no more hugging, but
exactly.
not really allowed to hug anymore. Although some people do. I feel like ADs, they still like to get some hugs. I don't know what that's about, but
it's a little different there. They're more European, so they still hug.
A kiss on the cheek.
Yeah.
yeah. 2 kisses. Yeah, there you go. Can you talk anything about how, when writing this, I wonder, do you ever fear like we're never going to be able to afford this, but you keep writing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we've bitten off more than we should have chewed a few times, and barely made our delivery because we were doing so many visual effects. There's, we do write, thankfully I know enough about production and about post-production and visual effects that I kind of know what we're capable of and don't write beyond that. But we've had a couple episodes that we got pretty big.
Yeah.
I mean, the Comet episode was like,
yeah.
Could have had our head examined before we wrote it out.
Well, funny enough, there's some similarities in the storyline to For All Mankind too. So when I was watching it, I was like, "Hey, that's crazy! Everyone's doing the same research here. This is fun."
I have to watch that. I've heard wonderful things about it, but I haven't seen it.
I've heard it's amazing.
It's fun. It's fun for me. It was my first season, 4th season, and you get to jump 10 years every time. So creatively, the sets are all new, so that's nice. But you're still, it's the same storyline, but new sets. And then they were on the moon, and now they're on Mars, so it was fun.
Oh.
But I was so obsessed with all of the chairs in the ship, and like I know how hard it is to have the set designer design them and have them all made, and then everything on the desks and the lab and then the cafeteria. Like I get it. I get all of that and making sense of it all. And
when we were shooting the pilot, a lot of it takes place with them in full space outfit with the helmets on.
Right.
And, we didn't have a lot of time to test this stuff, to have it manufactured and ready in time. We literally got them off the truck and started shooting. And in the pilot episode, the shields, the masks kept popping off in the middle of takes.
Oh, no.
So luckily, after that, we solved that issue, but it was so frustrating. You're literally in the middle of your favorite take, and the glass just goes, "Thank you."
That and the actors couldn't hear each other. We had to hide earphones in there for them to hear each other.
Well, I took one look at that helmet room, and I was like, that costs a lot of money. We were like moving our helmets around like behind camera because we didn't have enough. There's got to be like 20 helmets in that room. I was like, wow, this show had a lot of money. Look at all those helmets.
But we didn't.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, that you start to fake it a little bit, and then, it's just believable of what you can get away with. And how many stages did you guys have for all of these sets and all of your...
There were 4 stages altogether.
Wow.
But the dome that had the plants, that was actually outside.
Oh, wow.
Because we weren't using plastic plants. We were using real plants. So in between the shoot, we had to take off the fabric covering it so that the sun could keep the plants alive. Otherwise, they would have all died.
That's really smart, because we had one and we had to keep taking them in and out. So bravo, Randall.
The truth is a lot of them died anyway. Well, it got really hot in there when we were shooting.
Yeah. Oh, right. Yeah. The lights kill it. But did you, after seeing the sets up, did it make you want to write more to any particular sets?
Not really, because, when you're writing a show set in a spaceship, you're going to spend a lot of time in the bridge.
Yeah.
So
beautiful.
The bridge better be good.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I would love to write a whole lot more stuff for the observation room, for example.
Mm-hmm.
But we didn't, just because there wasn't a whole lot of story that would happen in there,
Yeah.
organically. So
I think the biggest influence was just when John and I were walking on the set when it was first built, is we both became like 13 years old.
Right.
You're on a spaceship and it's cool. And like all the hallways, they had ceilings. And as you know, most sets don't have ceilings. So usually you're on a set, you're very aware you're on a set. But when you're on a set like these hallways where everywhere you look, you're seeing reality, you start to feel like you're on a spaceship.
Yes.
It was really cool.
Yes. The hallway situation in space is a real problem. Sometimes you need more hallway, but where is it going? Can we move this hallway around and shoot it the other way? Can we have them come this direction? I mean, it's a lot. Because you're also thinking realistically, how much hallway do we have here? I mean, we got gigantic ships, but we can't build all that. But how much of the show is time for post? Like from ending the episode. I mean, I know that they start post like that night sometimes just to get it going, but do you have a couple months?
Oh, no. We're our plan always is 6 weeks of post per episode.
Oh yeah.
We don't always make that because some of these effects take longer.
Right.
But yeah, we are from the moment we finish shooting until we're having an episode that's maybe not completely finished as far as color correction and final mix, but it's 6 weeks.
It's 6 weeks. And then how much, I mean, writers and you are on first, but how much prep time did you have before shooting?
Before the whole series or each episode?
The whole series, like before the first episode.
12 weeks.
12, yeah, something like that. 12 weeks.
And then did you block shoot?
Sometimes. Some of the episodes are block shots. Some of them are single episodes, depending on the content of the episode and if there's a guest star. Or,
right.
And also, if we had a director doing 2 episodes back to back, then it was easier to block shoot.
Right. It's also, I kind of like it because then you might get a little bit more time to do a specific scene or set. You could push that to the end, and instead of it being 10 days out, it's 20 days out. And that's always any time.
We don't go out. You
don't go out. No, I mean out of the schedule. But yeah, no, I know. We were still on Earth, so
it's harder on the actors because they're shooting a scene from one episode, and then 5 minutes later they're shooting a scene from another episode.
Right.
It's hard for them. So
yeah,
got its pluses and minuses.
What in the episode is it 9? I think they're on arc 15. And I think it's Evelyn says that she saved all these beautiful creations of man. And there's beautiful paintings on the wall.
And some pink flamingos.
And rugs. And then there was the neon pink flamingos. And I thought, it's got to be a joke somewhere that someone...
Well, in 100 years from now, the pink flamingo is going to be remembered as one of the works of art of our time. The neon pink flamingo.
Yeah, remember, in 100 years from now, it's an antique.
Of course. I was thinking that's pretty funny, but it is like neon. Like you'd have to save neon. Who would know? I mean, was there a lot of discussion of what went into what you want to see? And especially in the bridge, you made it into a living room, and everybody's room had more personal effects and more decor to them.
Well, I think it's a combination of the ideal of what we want and what can we get. So,
right.
You have to kind of balance it between, John and I are very ambitious guys. We always want way more than we can do. So we start off with, okay, the entire universe explodes. And then it's like, okay, the glass explodes.
Right.
And you know how it is with clearances on art.
No, don't.
So we could, there were a lot of pieces of art we couldn't clear.
Yes.
So those are, will that painting clear? Okay, let's get that one.
Yeah. You're talking about trying to get a Mona Lisa or something, and you're just not. Yeah. It's just not going to happen. It's such a sad thing to me because I talk about clearance a lot on this of how it hinders us so much sometimes. You just want someone, sitting at a table playing a board game, and it has to be ND, and it can't be Life anymore. It can't be Monopoly. It can't, it's just such a bummer of the clearance issues everywhere. I talk about it. I hate it.
It's tough, but you see these lawsuits that are just crazy, and you go, "Well, I don't want to get involved in that." So
No. I was working on Bones, and this guy called my office once, and he was like, "Hey, I watched the episode last night, and my artwork is hanging in the diner." And I was like,
oh yeah.
"Hold, please." Everyone stop what they're doing. I want to know where the paperwork is for that artwork. And then I was like, "I'm so sorry. I rented that so you could contact these people. They have your clearance or whatever." But it was like total panic of, I'm going to cost this show like thousands and thousands of dollars if you show up.
We've had to cover tattoos because they're copyrighted by whoever did the tattoo.
Well, you remember what happened with what was it, the Hangover with Mike Tyson's
Mike Tyson.
Tattoos, like a $15 million lawsuit.
Yeah, graffiti. Like if we shoot out, you're shooting in downtown LA, you got to cover up all that graffiti. God forbid someone who tagged there is gonna like get a lawyer up and get some dough out of it. It's insane, which is nice in space. You don't really have to think about that, which is nice.
Until you put artwork in.
Yeah, that was nice about it. And I think in the beginning too of doing streaming, there was less, like Netflix didn't care as much, and now they do. It's kind of a bummer. I don't know. Anyway.
Well, you don't usually care until you've been sued a couple times, and then you start caring a lot.
Until your name gets brought up in that lawsuit, and then you're like, "I'll never do that again."
Yeah. I mean, with commercial supported television, that's why Netflix didn't care as much as
right.
You don't want to have a Pepsi can on there if Coke turns out to be your sponsor.
Right.
So, because Pepsi's not going to sue you for having the can there, but you got to worry about products.
I did work with some producers who had a logic of like, let's just do it and pay for it later. Like, let's not ask for permission, because if they say no, then you're screwed. But if you just do it and show it in a good light, and then
I'm pretty sure that those producers didn't own the show.
No. True. They were maybe they were gambling, but
I'm on another show next season.
True.
That's 20th Century Fox's problem.
Yeah. That's so true. Let me see. Can you talk about the balance of sci-fi elements versus the human drama in the show? Like how you interact, all the storyline?
Well, for me, it's human drama first. Mm-hmm. For me, the science fiction is almost an arena to play the human drama in. Mm-hmm. It's not. It shouldn't be the forefront of it. We come up with some really cool sci-fi ideas, but it's always with an eye to how will our characters react to that.
Right.
What would be the most impactful for Garnett? This or this, and we do it that way.
Yeah. There's such a element too of loneliness, I find, when you do space storylines, because there's such a, you're the only one here, or we're the only ones around. And I always find that in good storytelling with space themes, it's so essential to grab onto that. Like, we have to band together to stay alive, or we have to do this to keep you safe and everything. And I find that really well done in the series. Well,
that was a big part of how we designed the spaceship, because, we wanted a show that was about a group of very different people who are forced together in a contained space that's a pressure cooker, right? Mm-hmm. But at the same time, we also knew we were going to be on the spaceship for the entire series. So we didn't want it to become Das Boot. We didn't want to become overly claustrophobic.
Right.
So we had to design some areas where you felt claustrophobic, but then, as John was just saying, the observation deck, we wanted to open it up. Or in the dome, we wanted to have something more organic so that we could do maybe a romantic walk, or just a different feeling. So a lot of the choices of what we decided to put into the ship was based on thinking ahead of, all right, if I'm 8 episodes into this, am I going stir crazy, or is there enough visual differences that I don't feel claustrophobic?
Yeah. And to the viewer too, you see that how the relationship of where they are and what the scene is into, whether it's a fight scene or an intimate scene, you gotta the surroundings have to lend to that too. So it does help to have some difference. I think especially that greenhouse being so open but so alive. There's such life in there and such hope that's such a good set, really. I really like that one.
And yet it's a set that in the context of the story was never supposed to be what it is. It was supposed to just carry cargo, and then that was going to be jettisoned onto the planet. And it was the creativity of the survivors on the ship who came up with the idea of turning it into a farm. You know, and I think that is the hope of our show. The hope is, are these people going to rise to this occasion and meet the moment and survive? But to do that, they have to become the best versions of themselves.
Yeah. I like the characters too, that they're all different, like the ethnicities, and they're coming from, the world is being destroyed and we're all together now. We're not American, we're not Soviet, we're not anything like that. And that, I feel like that came through too, a lot of like, we're people trying to survive. And I really like that aspect of the story. Yeah.
The advantage of shooting in Europe is we could actually use people with different accents and different ethnicities.
Yeah. It's and mystery. I think there's just that one flashback to Earth, but with the bar fight, right? Or is she at a station? I forget.
There's one other one, or a series of other ones that take place outside of Trust Industries.
Oh, right. Yes.
Yeah.
But we never wanted this to become like Lost, where there's a whole parallel flashback story. We want to be on the ship with these people, but there was a few times where we felt like, okay, there's some things we have to explain. We've got to jump back onto Earth just to make the story clearer.
Yeah.
But we wanted to be very judicious of when we did that.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any good like behind the scenes or like anecdotes, funny stories of like besides that mask falling off? That was pretty fun.
Well, to be outside of Trust Industries, for instance, this was a thing where we knew we wanted to do that, but the idea of trying to do a shoot outside of the stages on this show was almost like impossible. And there was actually a facade left over from a mini series that was shot in and so I showed it to John. I said, John, do you think this could? And he's like, yeah, we could do it. And so so we literally was directly across the street from our sound stages.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Slapped some paint on it and put a green screen for the other side of the car window, and there we were.
Well, that's what I was thinking. Well, they don't really need location managers. Like, that's the thing.
We save on that.
Yeah. How did you come up with the premise of this show?
It started with a lunch I had with a man named Michael Wright, who used to run TNT when I did Leverage and the Librarians there. And we were just reminiscing about the type of science fiction shows that we really loved. And Michael was saying, I would so love to see another show about a group of people, all confined on a spaceship, going to some destination, with a hope of a new beginning. And then we just started reminiscing about all the shows that made us want to make television. And after that meeting, I kept thinking, yeah, I've always wanted to do a space show, but if I were going to do one, what would be the take that would make it different? Why should you watch this one if you've already seen all the others? And that's when this idea came about of, okay, but what if the people on the ship are not the people who were meant to run the ship? That of all the people that were meant to run the ship, all the teachers, all the engineers, all the scientists, what if they were all killed in a terrible accident in the first scene? And now everybody who's left has to step into these roles that they weren't really prepared for. And that became really kind of exciting. And when I pitched that to John, that's what he jumped on. And then we just started rolling with that.
Oh, man. The element of you're not really supposed to be you're not supposed to be here. Like, you didn't really have this much responsibility, and now you're in charge. Is terrifying, and flying a ship through space. So yeah, mm-hmm. And that is thrown at you that first episode. It really is. It's such a setup of what are these people in for. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, there's this moment in the pilot where they're trying to debug the system to figure out why the air is being lost, and Garnett yells at Bryce, and Bryce is like, I'm a navigation guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is not my area. I have no idea how to run this thing.
Yeah.
And that's really kind of the whole show.
Yeah.
But they're educated people. They're talented people. They were meant to one day become this.
Yeah.
But, it's like I can play tennis. And when I'm playing with some friends, I can play okay. But if you threw me into, Wimbledon,
Yeah.
no matter what I know, it would be worthless. So these people, they're not dummies, but they're also not prepared. And not just intellectually, but emotionally, because, the pressure of the situation. There's so many times you'll watch the episode and, well, why didn't they think of this? It's like, because they can't even believe they're in that chair is why they didn't think of this or that, And that's I think the Achilles heel of these characters, which makes it scary to watch their adventure. But as they come up with their solutions, that's also what makes it hopeful and uplifting.
Oh, and I really like that it's like time goes by. Like it's not just like, oh, this is a week of their life. This is like time going by trying to figure out this problem. It's not, having the doctor have an addiction problem in the middle of all of this is very like that probably happens. The stress probably gets to a lot of people, and that probably happens. So, yeah.
Well, on a lot of these serialized shows on streamers, it's a very slow peeling of the onion. It's a very slow rollout of the plot and the story. And John and I made a very conscious effort to do the exact opposite on this. We wanted every episode to be so filled with twists and turns and energy that, you're exhausted after each episode.
Yeah. No, and thank you for that. Yeah, thank you for that, because there's sometimes there are some shows I don't know, my attention span isn't as long as it used to be or something. I don't know. I stayed with ER for 14 years or whatever, and now I get like 2 episodes into some. I'm like, I can't do it. So it definitely keeps, this show definitely keeps moving, which is nice. And problems get solved, and problems occur, and problems get solved. Is it 12 episodes or it's 12?
But tonight is the penultimate episode, and next week is the finale.
I know. I thought it was 10. And then I was like, oh, good. I'll have seen the finale when I talk to you. And now I'm super bummed that I don't get to talk to you about it. So
I'll have to invite us back.
I know. I'll be watching. I want to try to get Randall to talk and then have this, kind of split together just so he can talk about it. And maybe after the finale, I'll get to chat with him about it.
You should.
Yeah. How do you see, I know this is a big question, but I thought since I had 2 of you here, how do you see science fiction, the genre, evolving, like, in our future? Because we're not where we are with the Jetsons. The Jetsons had us way advanced of where we should be now. But with like what you can do digitally and how you can write these big arcs of shows and everything, how do you see like sci-fi evolving with that?
Well, what's interesting is a lot of what was science fiction has become science fact now. And it's getting, I guess it's probably what's always been true with science fiction. If you go back and look at like 1950s science fiction, they were predicting things that would be happening in 2000, and it happened probably sooner than 2000. And I'm sure that what we're writing is going to be dated and,
But I still want my flying cars.
Yes.
I know.
Enormous flying cars, and I want my flying car.
I mean, things are moving so fast now that when we started our mission to Proxima B, while we were shooting, the Webb telescope found more planets that are closer.
Yeah.
So we're like,
yeah.
Yeah. What are you gonna do?
Yeah. No, the James Webb telescope is like amazing, and I feel so lucky only just getting into this like sci-fi. I follow every astronaut. I follow all this. I follow all these Mars. I'm so into it now. I just love that it's all there and accessible to us, and I feel like that must be so inspiring as sci-fi writers.
It is, but it also makes it challenging.
Yeah. Just
like, I wanted to write a story maybe where the computer becomes intelligent, and then ChatGPT comes out, and I'm like, well, that's dated. That won't work anymore. Yeah.
Right.
But I think the real fun of science fiction is not really the science. It's to take it's to take the issues that are difficult to talk about today over your dinner table at Thanksgiving and to put it into a context where suddenly you can have that conversation with people. Right. Because it's more theoretical. It's more about the ideas as opposed to the specifics, which makes things very difficult to talk about. My mother was a guest star on the very original Star Trek. So I was watching that as a child. And, when I look back at it now, I realized every episode was either about the Vietnam War or it was about race relations.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize it at the time. It was just a cool sci-fi show. But
Tribbles?
Tribbles, yeah. Well, that guy, I heard the story about the guy just making that up. I don't know. It's amazing. I'm on I'm a governor in my peer group at the committee. And I'm also on we're making up 75 most impactful moments of television for the last 75 years because it's the Academy's 75th anniversary. And one, in my group, we're trying to think of sets that, influenced and everything. And one that keeps popping up is it's Star Trek or, any of this. You have to bring on that sci-fi element. Like what influenced that? And you're like, well, Deep Space Nine. Like you think about all of these great sets that influence from sci-fi. So we're definitely trying to get those in there because it's impactful. That those sets are impactful and they've been copied and copied and copied. So yeah.
It's true.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. How did you guys start out? How'd you get into this?
You go first.
I'm the son of a movie producer and an actress. Right. So I grew up on movie sets. So, when my friends wanted to be cowboys or astronauts or firemen, I just wanted to make movies. So that's kind of just been my whole life.
You're into it.
And I like him, I started out as an actor. Mm-hmm. Was terrible. He was good. I was terrible. So I quickly moved behind the camera and studied that in film school and just kept pursuing it till I eventually sold my first script and kept going that way.
I could never be a writer. It's hard enough just to write these questions that they don't sound stupid. I can't even I have such
writing is like being in space. It's a lonely job.
Well, I think too with writers, you sit around that production table and they hand out the scripts and then everyone just dives in and kind of tears it apart in a good way of what does this mean to costumes? What does this mean to me? And, when you're writing the stories, I know that you're thinking about these things, but you're not really. You're thinking about maybe the acting, the directing, and how is the scene going to take place and what is it leading to and what is in my storytelling. So I always think it's hard when we sit around the table and we're kind of like, what? Why does she get a raincoat? Or why is she sitting?
But, I think those are the discussions, though, that really help you because so often as a writer, you'll write something and in your mind, it makes complete and perfect sense. And then you'll get to the table and people go, well, wait a minute, why is it? And in your ability to defend what you're doing, you start to see it more clearly.
Yeah.
Or
you realize that you need to change it.
Exactly. Because you can't defend it.
Yeah.
And so I think that process is enormously helpful.
I do.
I do too. And you're right. I mean, I in the beginning, it's what's the most important thing for the character? What's the most important thing for the plot? What's the most important thing for the emotional resonance of the story? But then the practical realities start to show up. And it's like, okay, well, I can't do the thing I wanted. What can I do that still has that emotional resonance? And then suddenly your costume person says, well, what if we went a totally different way and did this? And you go, oh, that's actually a better idea than what I thought, And so that evolution, it's a cliche that filmmaking is a collaborative business, but it is. And that's what makes it great, I think.
I can't agree more. I think we're all spokes in the wheel. I think, even grips, you got to give them some props. They can't not have a grip.
Well, very much so. On our show, when we were originally talking about the spacesuits, obviously, our head goes to the NASA bulky, big, giant thing. And it was our brilliant costume designer, Ivana, who called us up and said, have you seen what they're working on at MIT? And she showed us these things that are constriction suits that are supposed to be lighter and more flexible. And she goes, well, I was thinking of doing a variation of this. And it not only did we like what she was doing visually, but it changed how we wrote it.
Yeah. That's the thing too. Like when we do our homework, it helps you in a sense of writing and story and everything too, because you can't do it all. I can't do it all. I have people in my department also who come up and look at this plant holder I found that hangs or whatever it is. Like, and costumes, I know that like they went through many variations and everything about like what is it going to be, and you know, getting away from the bulkiness, and they're at a point now where it's not as sci-fi because they're only in 2010, the 10s, or 2004, sorry. So they're not up to like cool shit yet. They're still in like a base of reality. So they have to limit themselves a little bit, which is a bummer because I can't wait to see this show. I don't want to work. I can't wait to see it, you know, season 7, but it's going to be really hard. but no, I would love to do it.
The thing, though, is also deciding design versus the reality of the world you're trying to create. Yeah. You know, one of the things, like early on, we started to have very, very much sci-fi looking designs presented. And Jonathan and I talked about it, and we said, you know, in the reality of our show, which is only 100 years from now, they're on spaceships because Earth is about to die, which meant that they knew that probably 20, 30 years earlier.
I hope so.
When you know the Earth is about to die, you're not really designing the next cool iPhone. You know, you're not designing, you know, all ingenuity goes to, can we save the planet or can we get off the planet? And so things that where we spend a lot of attention on now, fashion or things like that, would fall to the wayside when there's this worldwide fire that has to either be put out or you've got to get out. So when we were making choices, we kept thinking, well, would the energy have gone there if it weren't for something other than a practical reason? Would energy go there just for design work? And we leaned against it. So there was some design work, but we really tried to make it more about where they put their focus and what their particular priorities were.
Right. Well, because you got to live. You're striving to. If you're leaving your planet, your goal is to live. So.
Well, but also we you know, like when we think of space travel today or air travel in general, we're thinking about a very highly regulated industry. You know, where you can't build something unless NASA approves it or the government approves it. But in the reality of our show, we thought, okay, this is 100 years later from today, where all of space travel is controlled by billionaires. So all the choices are done by the billionaires and their sense of priority, not by any regulations or any government telling them what they can or cannot do. So in one regard, there'll be enormous innovation in areas that might get suppressed. But in other areas where it would be so simple to just protect someone, the billionaire might not have thought it was important or didn't want to spend the money on it.
Right. Well, it's so funny you say that because I rewatched Stargate yesterday. And I was like, wait a minute, these archaeologists found this stuff and then the government just took over? They just took, you can't work on that anymore, you can't say that, he's not top secret, he doesn't have clearance. I was like, that's real bullshit. No wonder Elon Musk does his own shit now. Like, that's like, wow, we did all this work finding this and you can't come in.
It's the pluses and minuses, you know?
Yeah.
So like on our ship, they can go across the galaxy and travel farther than anyone else in history. But they also don't have simple alarms when a door bursts open.
Right, right.
It wasn't something that this billionaire thought was important. So
yeah, it is a give and take. I don't know which ship I'd feel safer. God, I wish you could tell me the ending.
Oh, I can tell you.
No.
Ending.
No. I want to watch it. No. I want to watch it.
The ending is really good.
I'm sure it is.
I wrote it. He directed it. I didn't write it. Oh, JP's a wonderful writer.
Well, there you go.
But I'll tell you this: I had seen, but because we're working on the show through editing and effects, I'd seen the episode, I don't know, maybe 10 times.
Right.
And just, you know, a little over a week ago, I finally saw the final version with the final music, the final effects. And it hit me like a punch in the gut. It was so much more powerful than it had been up till every stage until then. And I immediately called him up and cursed him out for being a better director than me.
Oh,
It's really good. I'm really proud of the finale. I think you're going to get a big kick out of it. And I think there'll be some good surprises in it.
Oh, good. That must be such a fulfilling feeling, too. Because you're from concept to the final episode of the season, having all the layers on top of it. It's got to be so exciting.
You know what, I'm such a cynical guy. I don't know if it's cynical is the right word, but it's not relieving for me, because then I'm like, okay, so we set that up. Now what are we going to do next season?
Right.
I mean, that worked really well, but it kind of wrote us into a corner. Now what are we going to do? Which is what you want to do, but it's still, you want to point where the audience is wondering what we're going to do next. But
are you picked up for a second season?
As of 15 minutes ago, it was just announced.
Really? Congratulations. Well, then you better get to work. You got to.
Yeah,
we are.
That's fantastic. Congratulations. I know what to not know is always like,
terrifying.
Just tell me yes or no. Like, are we coming back, or do I have to clean up my office or not? Like, it was a very
happy celebration for us and with the actors. They were so excited to get back in space again.
Oh, that's fantastic. I'm happy about that as a viewer. I'm really happy that I'll get to continue on with them. Let me see. Do you have a favorite aspect of working on the show? Is it delivering the script? Is it directing? Is it?
It's all fun for me. Yeah. It really is.
Yeah.
It really is. I love seeing what the actors are going to do with what we've written, because they always do something a little different than you'd expect, because they're good actors.
Yeah.
I love working on the visual effects.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's stressful sometimes because we're in such a hurry, but I love seeing when they send us that shot and it's like, wow, that's what we imagined. That's so cool. That's always fun.
I think for me, my favorite part is when we're here at our office in the screening room, watching, pretty close to a final version of an episode, and just feeling like, wow,
we did it.
We like that show.
I wrote that sentence, and somebody said it, and somebody did it, and somebody lit it, and somebody designed. That's fantastic.
Again, we were talking about this earlier, but it's like the first time you walk on a set of something that you had imagined, it's like walking into a dream that became real.
Yeah.
Because you dreamt something and you dreamt it was going to look a certain way. And suddenly you walk in there and it's like, this looks even better than my dream.
Well, that's always good.
It's a very exciting feeling.
Have you ever walked into a set and said no?
Lots of times.
Yeah.
Then it's John and I going, all right, what do we do? How do we put some stuff on the wall? Can we do some harsher lighting?
Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't always work out.
Well, there's how much time you have. There's how much money you have.
Yeah.
There's, when something didn't work out or the contract materials didn't show up and now you're trying to do something on the fly or, sometimes like we had this original idea on how the sleeping pods in the pilot were going to open, and we thought for sure it's going to be great. And then the first day we went to do it, and it was going tick, 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 tick. We're like, all right, put some fishing wire on it, and we're going to pull it like this. So, best laid plans often lead astray.
I was actually going to ask about that. How many were there? Was there
16.
like 16? And then they
yeah.
Those were great.
Those are cool, right?
Yeah, didn't look creaky at all. It looked fantastic. No, I enjoyed that. And I also enjoyed that I feel like you kind of know, like, oh, they're on the different ships, but you guys are using the same ship, and you're just, the walls are a little different or whatever. They're the same, and then, But I also felt like with the episode when they go and they find all those dead people, had a different feeling. I feel like the lighting was done really well to capture that this is a different ship, this is a different situation, shit's gone wrong here. So our
director of photography, Igor Suntor, came up with a whole new lighting plan at set, and it really helped, really made it work.
Yeah, he's a very special guy.
Yeah, there's just enough atmosphere. There's, the shadows are really good and intense in those scenes. Like I felt like I didn't feel like I was on the same ship which is
good.
well
Then it worked.
accomplished. Yeah. I also felt like the design with all the lighting wasn't like a Star Wars replica. You know, it's hard to get away from that. Let's be honest. Everything you want to design gets away from it. I thought integrating all those light panels and everything looked really well, and people were well lit.
It's very hard to on one hand make it familiar enough that people know what it is, and yet make it original enough that doesn't feel like you've seen it a million times. I mean, one of the things that I was fighting for very early on in the design was this idea that the air tanks would actually be part of the helmet. And we went through like 30 different designs before we got one that we fell in love with. But the early designs was like, what are we doing? Just put it on the back, make it like everybody else. But when we got it, we felt like, okay, you can look at it, you can pretty much guess what that is. And it made sense. And it made sense for our story that they needed the helmets for air.
Right.
Excuse me.
I did like, I mean, I think those helmets are really good because there's enough that you're seeing the actor and it still looks functional. I thought that they were really well done.
Yeah, and our costume designer really was in charge of that. I mean, normally that would be, under production, but she took it on, and like I said, we did many designs until we got it. But when she nailed it, we were jumping up and down.
Yeah, I bet.
And now we have 3 weeks to manufacture them all.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I'm sure she was really glad when you said yes, because now we got to race to get them done. I know
you have to manufacture everything. You can't just go to the sci-fi store and pick up cool sci-fi props. It's like every single thing has to be made.
Yeah.
And designed.
Chairs. I had many chairs made and tables. And no, I ripped off some like IKEA designs, but then we still had them made, so they would be intricate into our world.
Yeah, you start with a base of something that you can buy, and then you have to augment it.
Yeah. I love it, though. I think it really pushes us all to, design and think about function and form, and, you can't just have something hanging out. And it's hard, too, because then there's, like, dead space, and you don't usually want that. But people only bring up a backpack. Like, what else are you going to put there? Like, so, yeah. No, I thought the design and the palette and everything and very well lit. I thought it was done really well. Is there anything, Dean, that do you have any sort of like Easter eggs that you put into your shows from other projects?
All the time.
You do?
All the time. And that's one of the, there's a really great little community that has popped up around the Ark and some of my other shows. And they're like detectives for those Easter eggs. And when I find them, it's great. On this one, this was not an Easter egg I made, but from Jonathan, but the name of the Clampkins disease. So many people were like dying to know, where did that name come from?
Well, that season we had to write on Zoom because of COVID. And how right on the bottom of the screen, like we have right here, are the names. And one of our writers' name was Kendall Lampkin. And it always came up as K. Lampkin. And then as a joke, I started calling him Clampkin. I'd say, hey, Clampkin, what do you... And then when we needed a name for the disease, I said, do you mind if we call it that?
See that? That's creativity right in front of you.
Yeah.
You just grab it and go. Do you think that the Ark can spin off into like just Ark 15 show and just like... Because Stargate has so many elements to it now, in how many years and how many... I mean, the series went like 10 seasons, right? I mean, it's huge. The longevity of the storylines are amazing.
Well, that's the fun of genre entertainment, is you can create a universe in which your concept exists in. And then not only does that spur stories for that show, but it also spurs stories for other shows. Yeah. Where it feels organic.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why the Marvel universes work and the Star Wars universes work. There's so many different aspects of that fantasy that you'd love to see from different angles, from different perspectives.
Yeah. Are you watching anything right now that you love and adore and is inspiring?
Picard for me could be the sci-fi show right now.
The Card?
Picard season 3.
Season 3 is amazing.
Oh, wow.
And Succession.
Yeah.
The episode was probably the best hour of television I think I've ever seen.
And The Last of Us.
Yeah.
I like that too. But yeah, the same choices.
Succession, let me just say, don't you think we all knew he was going to go because it's called Succession? But you kind of just thought...
I just didn't think it was going to take this many seasons.
I wasn't surprised that it would go, but I thought the way they did it was brilliant.
Yeah.
I said to the writers in the writers' room, I said, a hack like me would have written, they're at a board table, and he goes, And they didn't even show him die. They didn't even show him on camera. Until the very end, and it was all from the perspective of the kids. It was just amazing.
And then didn't you I kind of thought, it's not real. He just wants to hear how they feel.
That too.
Yeah. No, it was really well done.
It's a brilliantly made show.
Yeah. The style of it is fantastic. I dream about it.
I'd like to have that budget.
Yeah.
I don't think they have one.
If you're impressed with that spaceship now, give me the budget of Succession. I'll give you the greatest spaceship you ever saw.
I'll tell you what, I don't think they have one. I think they just do what they want and get it going. I think it's fantastic. I think
super yachts, helicopters.
Yeah.
Amazing.
It's crazy.
Shoot all over the world.
Is there anything in all of TV history that you wish you worked on, that you wish you could have written?
Oh, for me, it's Doctor Who.
Doctor Who.
Yeah, that's the show I wish I had. I wish I came up with it.
Yeah.
I wish it would go. I freaking love that show.
Yeah.
Well, I became a writer largely from watching the writing on St. Elsewhere, which was probably before your time.
No, not really.
That was the first television series I saw that I thought, that's poetry. I mean, that's real writing. That's not just, the guy pulls a gun and shoots the bad guy. It was heavy stuff and really interesting. And I really wanted to write on that show, and right when I got out of college, but it was gone by the time I got out of college.
That and Hill Street Blues felt like it was dirty or something. Like when you watched it, it was like, oh, this isn't pretty and like glossy like Dallas or whatever. It was like
gritty.
Yeah, it was gritty, and then you get the NYPD Blue, and then you
died. They didn't cure everybody there was.
Yeah.
They never came in there. People had arguments and had problems. They weren't all perfect doctors. They screwed up. It was.
Yeah.
I was actually a gang member on Hill Street Blues.
Were you really? Oh my God.
Can't you tell? Doesn't he look like a gang member?
That's fantastic.
Typecasting.
That should be number 1 on your IMDb. Forget that Independence Day. Well, I was going to ask, do you have anything coming up? But I guess you're going to start writing season 2.
Yep.
That's fun. Oh, this is what I want to ask you. So are you in Serbia? Like, where are you? Are you in LA?
Yeah.
You're in LA.
Right, we're in LA, and then a few weeks before we'll head off to Serbia and set up the new season.
That's fantastic. And then how long do you think you'll be there?
We commute. We don't stay there.
Yeah, you don't stay.
The show will shoot for what, 5 months?
Yeah, about 5 months.
Wow, that's so exciting. So exciting. Well, I won't spoil it for Randall. I'll let you tell him. I just said to him, we'll have to do some happy hour. And he's like, I'm in Seattle. I was like, we'll drink over Zoom. I don't care. I'm going to see you.
They have alcohol in Seattle, I think.
Yeah.
Do they?
I'm pretty sure
I think
of it.
so. It has to, it's like a distillery and the sky just comes down and they open their mouths. I kept you an hour. Thank you so much. I truly appreciate you just giving me stories and fantastic sci-fi through all these years to reference and to be a great viewer for your work. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you.
It was fun talking with you.
Yeah, thank you. And good luck and congrats.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
God, I wish I could have had like another hour with both of them because I really wanted to discuss more of their backgrounds. I wanted to discuss Independence Day and Stargate. And, you know, I feel sometimes when you ask people about older work, it's like, I mean, some people ask me about older work and I'm like, yeah, like I want to talk about it, but you kind of don't because you want to focus on what you're doing now. But those movies and like Godzilla, like all these huge blockbusters that they were part of, SG-1, like I said, there's like so many spin-offs off that show that they have created and developed and directed and written. Like, it's crazy. I had so many questions written down. Like, I had a column for Dean and a column for Jonathan, and then about the arc, and then about being showrunners. So I had way too many questions. I got lost in my notes, so you hear that in there. But I think it is important to know about this creative writing side of the business because it's where it all starts. It's an idea that becomes a story that becomes real to people making it and to people watching it. And it's just an amazing process and definitely part of this magic of working in Hollywood. So him telling the story of, you know, meetings and ideas coming out and then developing that idea is just, that's creativity at its finest. I mean, you take something and you develop it and then you put words to it, and then, you know, I'm on the set decorating it. It's crazy. It's crazy. So I can't thank them enough for giving me their time, and congratulations on getting a second season. I hope to talk to Randall Groves, the production designer. I didn't get him in time for this interview, but hopefully I'll get him on here at some point. He is fascinating. He is one of the nicest men, I swear, and just super down to earth and good guy. I hope I get to work with him again in the future. So yeah. If you are not getting my emails about upcoming episodes, please subscribe at decoratingpagespodcast.com. Check out the site. I've got some informative blogs on there, and I have a link to the Etsy shop, the Amazon shop to see what I've purchased on other shows, and that then you could purchase through Amazon. And what else I got on there? I don't know, cool shit. I don't know. Instagram. The Instagram's doing well. I am super happy with my social media person, Hannah Hull, who has been taking over and just, I think, making it much more colorful and interesting, and bravo to her. I think she's doing a fantastic job, and it's like, it's weird because I have to tell her, you know, what I'm watching and how I thought and this and that, and she just has a better way of putting it, and it's visuals. I think she's doing a fantastic job. So check out the Instagram, and she's doing some reels on there. I've been lacking on my TikTok. I know. I've barely been on TikTok, which is kind of a bummer because I really like it, but I don't know, I've been busy, and I start work next week. So yeah, busy. And I just had so much time off and I feel like I'm tired. So yeah, there's always that, I guess. So I hope you got an earful. I'm Kim Wanup for Decorating Pages.
Welcome to Pro Tips for the Pros, brought to you by Floor & Decor Bailey's Crossroads. In this series, we'll explore essential advice for professional contractors to deliver outstanding renovation results. Let's dive in. Keep the work area clean and organized throughout the renovation process to create a positive impression and minimize stress for the customer. Regularly clean up debris and dust to maintain a safe and comfortable living environment. Thank you for joining us for this pro tip on planning thorough renovations. Stay tuned for more expert advice brought to you by Floor & Decor Bailey's Crossroads.
A lot of people tolerate ordinary. Ordinary bathrooms, kitchens, entryways. Well, not on your watch. If you're a pro, you've got a new partner in town. Floor & Decor. From tile to wood to stone, Floor & Decor has more styles and job lot quantities of Schluter, Mapei, Laticrete, and other brands pros trust. Come see a whole new way to wow with Floor & Decor. Coming soon to Bailey's Crossroads.